Hey there, it's Marley. Welcome back to my booktube channel. Today we're going to be going through my September reading wrap up. So talking about all the books I read in the month of September. Hopefully this glare we have going on is not too bad. The sun is in my eyes a little bit, but oh well. So as always, I'll go through a few of my reading stats before we get into the individual book reviews. So in September, I read 8 books, which is basically my average. That was about 2,709 pages. So I would say that was a little bit less than normal actually. Hours listened was 0. Average rating was 3.6. Books acquired was 5. Then in terms of my genre stat, I read 4 thriller books. Love that. 2 contemporary, 1 fantasy, and 1 romance. For format, I read 5 ebooks and then 3 physical books. For audience age, I read 6 adult books and then 1 new adult and 1 young adult. In terms of author gender, I read from 5 female authors and 2 male authors. And in terms of the author status to me, if I had read from them before, I had read from 4 of the authors before, but 3 of them were new to me. And then in terms of year published, it was a bit spread out. We had 1 from this year, 2025, 2 from 2024, 1 from 2023, 2 from 2022, and then just 1 from 2020. I did a little bit of traveling this month, so I anticipate that is why my pages read is a little bit lower than normally. But now let's get into the 8 book reviews, starting with my least favorite book of the month, which unfortunately was Below Zero by Hazelwood. This was the 3rd and final novella in her Feminist novella series. I really spread out when I read each of these novellas. I liked the first one. I did not like the second one, and unfortunately now I did not like the third one. Oh, I actually did read this one on audio, so I must have put that in my spreadsheet wrong. So, okay, I'll have to fix that later. Anyways, I did read 1 audiobook. I read this one on a road trip with my sister, and we both just did not really enjoy it. I feel like the premise of this one I already kind of forget. I know it has to do with obviously scientists. Our main character really is what kind of ruined this book for me. She was not very likable. She kind of throws herself at the main guy and they have like a hookup situation, but when he actually wants to have something more with her, like an actual date, an actual relationship, she just turns him down, is not interested in it. Anyways, later on in their lives they end up kind of reconnecting and he ends up like saving her from this life or death situation. Didn't really stick with me. Overall, I probably would not recommend these feminist novellas. If you are going to read one, maybe just read that first one. Next up, I read The Getaway List by Emma Lord. She is known for her contemporary kind of young adult books, but I actually kind of consider a lot of them new adult because they have to do with characters who are just finishing high school and getting into adulthood. This one is unfortunately probably my least favorite of her books. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like normally I give her books 4 stars. Again, didn't really connect with the main characters in this one. So basically our main girl graduates high school and doesn't get into any of the college programs she applied to. So she doesn't really know what is next in her life. She ends up going to visit her friend who lives in New York for the summer. She actually plans to just go for the weekend, but she ends up staying for the summer because she's just feeling like this is her moment to be in New York. She's connecting with a bunch of people. She's connecting with herself and her passions, which is basically writing. And she's of course reconnecting with her childhood friend who lives there. The romance also was not it for me. It of course is a friendship to lovers story as it's between these 2 friends, but I feel like that can be done well sometimes, but in this case I wasn't really feeling the kind of love connection between these 2 as much as I would like. I was feeling the friendship, but not really the romance. We had, you know, some fun New York times, New York shenanigans going on, a fun little friend group, but out of all of her other books, like I feel like the message works better for me. The romance normally works better for me than it does in this one. So this was just kind of like a meh kind of book. Oh, and in terms of the getaway list, basically the friends have this list, kind of like a bucket list of things they want to do in the summer. Kind of a typical story we've seen before. Definitely not stand out by any means. Another book that unfortunately does not stand out is going to be She Didn't See It Coming by Shari Lapena. I on my channel have really uplifted Shari Lapena. I really have loved some of her thriller books in the past. Unfortunately, this is probably going to rank as one of my lower rated ones, coming in at 3 stars. This has to do with a woman who goes missing from her apartment building. There's no proof of her ever leaving the building. It's pretty much like she just disappeared. We're exploring this mystery. We have points of view from a bunch of people in her life, some other people in the apartment building, and the detective actually plays a pretty big role in this book. I felt like it was too predictable, I guess, who the killer was from the start. Maybe I'm just getting really good at it, but yeah, a little bit too predictable for me. I also think Shari didn't take advantage of this setting of this apartment building enough. I feel like all of the characters we got to know were our missing woman's like friends and family that didn't even live in the building. So it's kind of like, what was the point of doing this cool setting of like the apartment building when you didn't even take advantage of like getting to know the different neighbors and why they would have motives for, you know, killing this woman. I just feel like she could have done more with this story. That being said, I always find her writing very addictive and easy to read. So if you're looking for that kind of read, you could pick it up still, but I think there are more interesting thrillers out there. All right, and the most recent book I read, the next book, and that's going to be Ruthless, Vows by Rebecca Ross. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is the sequel to Divine Rivals. That is a young adult fantasy book. It's just a duology, so now I've done it. The first book I gave 4 stars. I did like it. This book, I would say I also liked it, but just not quite as much. This duology is just not going to be a favorite for me. Unfortunately, it's just kind of an average young adult fantasy romance. It is definitely more heavy on the romance. It takes place in a world where there's this war going on between the gods, and our 2 main characters, Iris and Roman, are both writers or both journalists at this newspaper reporting on the war, and then they both end up getting like more involved in the war, more like in the front lines reporting. There's also a magical element where they are communicating through these magical typewriters, so that is a fun little element, although it did bug me a little bit in the first one that one person knew who they were talking to and the other one didn't. In this second book, I actually liked what they did with the letter writing again, how they kind of brought it full circle back to the plot. It definitely just has a lot to do with war, and so this book can be, you know, very upsetting, very sad. I was tearing up for sure in this book. It did quite make me sad, but I don't know, I just didn't love like the fact that it was so romance focused, and I wouldn't say Roman and Iris are like my favorite couple ever, anything like that. Rebecca does write very beautifully. I could definitely see why this book would work for some people, but it just wasn't quite the book or the series for me. It still was decent though, like I still had a decent time reading it. I'm just not going to be like raving about it. Next up, I read How to Age Disgracefully by Clare Pooley, and I give this one 4 stars. At first, I did not think I would. It was one of those books where I'm like, this is weird, like it's coming across a little boring, and then it definitely did pick up. It's basically about a group of seniors who are part of this like group that I forget if it's like a support group or an entertainment group for them basically to get together and do stuff at this community center. So we follow a couple different seniors who are a part of this group. And then we also have this kid, he's like 17 and he is a teenage dad, teenage father. So his kid goes to this community center as well during when he's at school, but then they find out this community center is going to get sold or torn down or whatever, and so the seniors and the daycare end up joining together to try to find a way to save this community center. There also is a bit of a like darkness to this book. I was actually surprised. Multiple characters are kind of involved in some crime. So I want to compare it to like a cozy mystery. I wouldn't necessarily say there's a mystery in this book or like a murder mystery or something like that, but it gives the vibe of a cozy mystery because it is quite funny and humorous in tone, but there are these like darker elements where some of our characters are criminals or have different shady things going on. So I actually would recommend this book, honestly. I ended up liking it more than I anticipated. Moving on to another 4-star, we have Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. The rest of the books I'm going to talk about were all of the books that were featured in my reading vlog for the month, where I read the highest rated thriller books on my TBR, and clearly they ended up being the highest rated books of my month, so they obviously were pretty good. In this book, we have a woman who was shopping with her son at this busy mall, and she actually lost him in the mall, and he ended up getting kidnapped. And so we are seeing the ramifications of this, how upset she is with herself, with the situation, and then she ends up finding out that her husband is now cheating on her, and she is desperate to do whatever she needs to keep her family, what she has left of her family, intact, because this is the father of her son. So she well, I won't get into what she does, but she is determined to obviously still find her son and like put an end to her husband cheating. And a lot of different secrets come out, as you can imagine from the title. We also are following the mistress that this woman's husband has. We're finding out about her past. It just goes off from there. I thought this one was a very good thriller, very decent. Nothing too crazy shocking, nothing that blew my mind, but it definitely was enjoyable. And as I said in that vlog, it is the least disturbing of Jennifer Hillier's books that I've read so far. I've read 2 of her other books and I've really liked them as well, but they were more like gruesome, more triggering in terms of the content. This one, you don't have to worry about that as much. Next up, I also read Look Closer by David Ellis. This is another thriller book. It's definitely on the longer end, so there were definitely times I felt a little bit bored, like it was a little meandering, but ultimately I did really like this book and what David Ellis did with this plot and did with the twists. In this book, we're following a married couple once again. This woman has died pretty close to them, and we're learning about the connection that this couple has with this woman's murder. We're following from multiple points of view, kind of different timelines. We're figuring out the past of these people, and I really don't want to say too much about this because I think going into this book not knowing a ton is going to be the best way to go in. So yeah, if you are really into thrillers, I think this one is a little bit unique. I think it's a must read for any thriller reader, but just know the pacing is a little bit slow. And then for my best book of the month, geez, I've been going through these quick. Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Cavanagh. I actually gave 5 stars. I'm so happy I finally found another 5-star. I want to get 10 5-stars for the year, and now I'm only at 4. So I'm really struggling with finding the 5-star reads. So I'm really happy I found this one. Basically, this one has to do with these 2 women who meet. They both have had their children be brutally murdered, and then the killer has gotten off, has not gone to jail, not faced repercussions. So both of these women have this agreement, like, let's kill the men for each other, because obviously if they were to kill these men themselves, it would be really obvious it was them because they have, you know, a grudge against them that this person's killed their child. But if they kill for each other and they're strangers to the person, then obviously they're more likely to get away with it. So that is the initial premise, and it goes off from there. We're seeing another kind of perspective of this other woman who has a home invasion situation. This man breaks into her house, brutally like attacks her. She manages to survive, and we're seeing the fallout of that and how this woman deals with that, trying to find this man who did this, ultimately seeing what the connection is between all these different stories and all these different women. This one definitely did get me. I feel like it was really action-packed, and there were twists throughout, twists that crossed my mind but still ultimately did surprise me. So again, if you're gonna read one book from this video, definitely check this one out. It is, I just love when thriller books are really action-packed. Like, sometimes they can still be effective even if they're slow-paced, like Look Closer was, but when it's just action-packed the whole time, there's multiple twists spread throughout the whole book, like that is what I want in a thriller, and I'm really glad that I found that, and I would definitely read more from Steve Cavanagh. All right, that is gonna be my wrap-up for this month. Let me know if you have any thoughts about these books down below, and I hope you got a recommendation or 2 from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more bookish videos, more reading vlogs, wrap-ups, and other recommendation videos. I hope you have a great October reading month. Pick up some thrillers, pick up some horror books, and have a spooky good time. All right, I'll see you soon in a new video soon. Bye.